Welcome to the part 2 of neural control and coordination in the human physiology revision series. In this, we will go over the human brain. So as you know, brain is the central information processing organ of the body, and the NCERT actually starts with forebrain. So we'll start with forebrain. In forebrain, cerebrum. Now NCERT has skipped certain part of cerebrum that are actually important and you need to know. I'll tell that later. So first, starting with what is given in NCERT, there are two lobes in the cerebrum, left hemisphere, right hemisphere. There are sulcus and gyrus that are present in cerebrum. Sulcuses are the deep grooves that are present between gyruses, as you can see in the diagram. Now you have to remember that the right hemisphere controls left part of the body, left hemisphere controls right part of the body. Right hemisphere is involved in creative and abstract thinking. Left hemisphere is involved in rational and logical thinking. Right and left hemisphere are connected to each other through a fibrous tract called corpus callosum. Now coming to the four lobes that are present in the cerebrum, there is frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. Frontal lobe is involved in thinking and rationalizing, etc. Parietal lobe is involved in mixing certain sensory stimuluses that are there in the environment. It also helps in reading, parietal lobe. Next, occipital lobe, which helps in vision. Temporal lobe helps in hearing, and temporal lobe also helps in regulating behavior. This is the human cerebrum. Next, coming to the second part of the forebrain, which is thalamus. Thalamus is a part of what is considered as diencephalon. Diencephalon includes thalamus, hypothalamus and pituitary, etc. That region of the brain is called diencephalon. Thalamus is the major coordinating center for sensory and motor signaling. That is all that is given in NCERT. So thalamus is the major coordinating center for sensory and motor signaling. Moving to hypothalamus. Now hypothalamus is present below the thalamus. It is a part of diencephalon, as I have mentioned before. It regulates the activity of pituitary. It releases certain hormones that we will see in the endocrine system chapter. Also, what thalamus does is it controls body temperature, urge for drinking and eating. It is also controlled by thalamus. This is all that you need to remember in forebrain. Coming to midbrain, there are certain things that are not given in NCERT that you need to know. For example, corpora quadragemina is given in NCERT. There are four lobes that are present dorsal side of midbrain that are called corpora quadragemina. This is given in NCERT. What is not given is their function. So the upper two lobes of corpora quadragemina in the dorsal side of midbrain help in visual reflex, and the lower two lobes help in auditory reflex. So remember that the upper two help in visual reflex and lower two help in auditory reflex. Next, there is cerebral aqueduct, which is given in NCERT. It is a conduit which has CSF, but its dimensions are 15 millimeter. It is 15 millimeter in diameter. That you have to remember. You can see that this is the map of brainstem. Over here you can see the diencephalon, pituitary, and over here is the midbrain. And on the dorsal side of the midbrain is present corpora quadragemina. Below midbrain is pons, and below pons in medulla is medulla oblongata. Pons and medulla oblongata consist of hindbrain, which is also called brainstem. Now there is one thing that needs to be mentioned, and it is that if you search the functions of parts of hindbrain, you will see a lot of these functions are related. So for example, in some places it is mentioned that pons help in connecting brain to spinal cord. Even in your coaching material, it may be written that pons connects brain to spinal cord. Actually, the whole brainstem connects brain to spinal cord. But NCERT mentions that medulla oblongata connects brain to spinal cord. If there is a question like what connects brain to spinal cord, and the options are pons, cerebellum, medulla oblongata, you have to mark medulla oblongata. But if there is hindbrain in the option, you can just mark hindbrain. Coming to functions of pons, pons connect different regions of the brain, and it is fibrous. That is given in NCERT. What is not given in NCERT is that it handles unconscious processes and jobs such as sleep-wake cycle, breathing. It contains several junctions which points for nerves that control muscles and carry information from sensors in your head and face. So pons has certain nerves which carry information from head and face. Next, cerebellum. It integrates information received from semicircular canal and auditory system. Now, in NCERT it is written that it integrates information from semicircular canal and auditory system. And you have to infer from this statement that it also helps in balancing the body and maintaining the posture of the body. How do you have to infer? You have to see what is written. You have to see that the cerebellum integrates information received from semicircular canal. And function of semicircular canal is the balance of the body. So cerebellum helps in maintaining balance of the body and posture. Now cerebellum also contains this system called arbor vitae, which is cerebellar white matter. It has tree-like appearance. Arbor vitae in Latin means tree of life. So in some ways it more resembles like a fern that you must have studied in botany. It brings sensory and motor information to and from the cerebellum. Next, medulla oblongata, as I've already mentioned, that it connects brain to spinal cord. It has centers for controlling respiration, cardiovascular reflexes, and gastric secretion. One thing you need to remember about the regions in cerebral hemisphere is that cerebral hemisphere is divided into two parts. There is an outer cortex and there is an inner part. So the outer cortex of the cerebral hemisphere appears grayish in color because it has concentrated cell bodies of nerve cells. And the inner part appears whitish in color because it has the myelinated nerve axon. As you know, the nerve cells in the CNS are myelinated, and because of that the inner part, which has the nerve axons, myelinated axons of nerve cells, is white in color, and the cell body that is superficially present on the outer cortex, they are grayish in color. That's why the outer cortex of the cerebral hemisphere is grayish in color and the inner part of cerebral hemisphere is white in color. And then there is a line in NCERT that there are clearly areas present in cerebral cortex that are not associated with either sensory or motor area. They are called associated areas, and their function is intersensory associations, memory, communications, etc. There is one more part actually given in NCERT. There is very less written about it, but there is this one part called limbic system. So limbic system, as you can see, this is the diencephalon, which is thalamus, hypothalamus, pons, etc. And the limbic system covers this diencephalon in this C shape. You can see that there is this C shaped thing over here, and that is the limbic system. Now limbic system actually also consists of parts of diencephalon itself. So the limbic system, it consists of amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and something called as cingulate gyrus. But that is not given in NCERT. Basal ganglia and cingulate gyrus is not given in NCERT. In NCERT, it only states amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus. What are the functions of this limbic system or limbic lobe? It helps regulate all the primal qualities, all the animal-like qualities of human. For example, excitement, pleasure, rage, fear. It also helps in olfaction, autonomic responses, regulation of sexual behavior, and motivation. These you need to remember. First, there are animal-like qualities that are controlled by limbic system, that is fear, rage, pleasure, etc. Next, there is olfaction, autonomic response, regulation of sexual behavior, motivation. 4 things other than the animal-like behavior. All the human-like behavior are controlled by the cerebral hemisphere. With this, we have completed the revision of human brain part of this chapter. In next video, we will do ear and human eye.